Is virtual reality our future? Short answer, probably not. But you guys know I always have a long answer, so roll the intro. From The Matrix to Ready Player One to Sword Art Online and everything in between, media has been asking the same question for decades. What if VR was our future? While fiction dreamed of full haptic bodysuits, full dive VR, and retinal image scanning straight onto your eyes to show you a virtual world, the reality of VR was actually a lot messier, a lot slower. To examine how VR could shape our future, we have to look at how VR has changed in the past. While the term virtual reality wasn't popularized until the late 1980s by Jaron Lanier, the co-founder of VPL Research, which would eventually go on to create the iPhone.
Well, this is our virtual reality glove. It's called a data glove. And the idea is that you can put on this glove, and the glove lets you feel a world that doesn't exist as if it's real and pick up things in the world as if they're real. So it lets you reach into an imaginary world. And these are the special glasses called the iPhones that you put on. And when you put them on, you're seeing inside an imaginary world instead of inside the physical world. So the idea is that by wearing computerized clothing right over your sense organs, you transport your sensory system into a reality that can be of any description.
Not to be confused with the iPhone. There had been attempts as early as the 1960s to create what is pretty akin to a virtual reality experience as we know it today. In 1968, Ivan Sutherland was an MIT professor. He, along with his students, created a device called the Sword of Damocles, which is an appropriate name because the contraption was so heavy that it had to be suspended from the ceiling on what looks like a giant mobile. Once inside the visor, 2 CRT screens with a series of mirrors and lenses would power up to display wireframe graphics on their displays. Due to the configuration of the mirrors and lenses, the user was then transported to a 3D space as far as they could tell. Once in the simulation, the user could then move around the mobile like this and look around, and their head movements would actually be tracked. This provided a feeling of immersion unlike anyone had ever seen before and created the race toward VR. From 1968 to the mid-1980s, VR progress was slow and private. It was mainly used to create flight simulators for the military. In 1985, NASA completed their very own virtual reality solution called the View headset. It featured a head-mounted display and gloves to control. There's not a ton of information about the NASA View, so I guess we can just look at the picture of it and go, wow. But that brings us back to the guy we were talking about earlier, Jaron Lanier. Lanier and his team would create a technology that they called the iPhone. It featured a head-mounted display, haptic gloves, and optional full-body tracking.
Turn, let's see.
Put around toe angle. Great.
The angle. Rotate one way or the other because so I can, yeah. Bring your arms.
And most importantly, it was the first commercially available VR solution. Unfortunately, it cost, at the time in 1989, $250,000. That's a pretty hefty chunk of change for what boils down to be around 5 to 6 FPS gameplay that looks pretty similar to a game like Rec Room. Despite the cost, this technology gave Jaron Lanier a new title, the father of virtual reality. Additionally, I would say that this is the technology that inspires so much media, things like Ready Player One specifically. Because of the way this technology was popularized, people's idea of VR for a very long time was you have a headset-mounted visor and haptic gloves. Now, why in the world we don't have cheap, readily available haptic gloves now baffles me. Pretty annoying. Seems like that should be a thing we have by now. But I guess the index knuckles controllers are going to be the best we get for a little while. In 1991, Virtuality launched their line of arcade VR machines. While there was no restriction against buying one as a home user, many people just chose to play them at arcades. They were $60,000 for the standing unit and $55,000 for the cockpit-style unit, respectively. This was most people's first experience with VR at all. Popping a few quarters into a machine is a lot less of an investment, like spending $50,000 or $250,000 on a one-use device. Both the standing and the cockpit-style units came with 5 different games on them. So if you were in the mood to puzzle solve, you could do that. If you're in the mood to kill some orcs, you could do that. If you're in the mood to shoot some planes out of the sky, you can do that as well. Despite the limited library of games, Virtuality would go on to create a second and third iteration of this product into the 2000s. I've never seen one before, but they look freaking sick, so like, if anyone's ever used one, I'd love for you to tell me about it in the comments, please. In 1995, Nintendo said, "No, we have virtual reality at home." And the Virtual Boy is the unfortunate brainchild of that. With abysmal sales, eye-straining graphics, and a tiny, tiny library of games, I think anybody can see why the Virtual Boy flopped. It honestly looks more like something out of Lawnmower Man than an actual product. And many don't even consider this to be an actual virtual reality headset. I just threw it on there because everyone knows the Virtual Boy. But really, it's 2D images, and when you look around and move your head, it doesn't track you, so not too immersive. Sorry about that, Nintendo. Good thing they really redeemed themselves with the Switch Cardboard VR, right? Right? Also in 1995, Forte released the VFX-1. The VFX-1 was the first true virtual reality experience at home, and for a reasonable price at that, at $695. Not unlike this Vive I have here, it consisted of a head-mounted display with speakers. Users were even able to play games like Quake on it. The Cyberpuck was a really weird little controlling device that was wired to the headset, and then it had 3 buttons at the front, and it's pretty much just a little puck. It had motion tracking, so you can push forward to go forward, pull back to go back, swipe left and right to look left and right if you don't feel like moving your actual head, and all for under $1,000. I think most would say this is the point where VR got interesting for the average person. And then for 17 years, the industry ground to a halt. They didn't get anything from 1995 to 2012 with the announcement for the Kickstarter of the Oculus Rift. Since VR was so foreign and ancient by this time, no games existed to have motion controls. So when the Oculus Rift launched, it was packaged with an Xbox controller. In 2014, Facebook sees how much attention the Oculus Rift is getting. And what does a multi-billion-dollar corporation do when they see something they like? They acquire it. So in 2014, they were acquired by Facebook for about $2 billion. With the backing of Facebook, they do update the headset from its very strange looking giant trapezoidal face to a much slimmer, much more tuned down kind of a look, releasing the Oculus Rift CV1 in 2016. It wouldn't be until 2017 that the Oculus Rift came out in its final form, bundled with 2 motion controllers called the Oculus Touch controllers. Unfortunately for Oculus, 4 years after their announcement of their Kickstarter, HTC would launch their own headset, the HTC Vive, which released in mid-2016 before the Oculus Rift. It featured 2 wand-style controllers with triggers in the rears and a touchpad up top. You mounted 2 base stations or lighthouses in corners of your room, or up to, I believe, 4 for full room experience. But the Vive was the start of VR for me. Playing games like Gorn or Beat Saber or Arizona Sunshine showed me that there truly is a ton of potential for this technology. One of the first times I got other people to try my Vive, I told everyone back away from the person using it. You know, they're gonna be like waving their arms a lot. We were playing Gorn, and if you don't know what Gorn is, it's a gladiator fighting game. So my younger brother had this friend, and you know, he'd always been like tall, real muscular, football player, baseball player, that sort of thing. And he's playing Gorn, and you know, he's throwing his punches, he's doing his stuff, right? And I, tell them again, hey, you're gonna wanna move to the other side of the bed because you're probably about to get punched in the face. And my brother's female friend is like, we're fine. And she looks right back up. So she's at the edge of the bed here, and he's here, he's like this, and he just goes, boom! Hits her right in the forehead with the diamond-shaped end of the wand, and just leaves a unicorn horn coming out of her forehead. Because finally, VR had gotten believable. You feel like you have to put inertia behind the sword and swing all the way through, make sure you actually complete the punch with full force. Whereas before, like the Rift and the Vive, I think VR felt like a very delicate, finicky thing. And of course it is to like set up and everything like that. But for the most part, once you've got all the setup done, you just put the thing on, grab your controllers, welcome to a new world. Also in 2016, PlayStation released the PSVR 1, their VR solution for the PS4. So, after almost 20 years of stagnation, 3 huge headsets drop in 2016: the Vive, the Oculus Rift, and the PSVR. From here, the market exploded. 3 years later, the Rift S comes out, and it's basically just a Rift CV1 with a little bit better field of view, higher resolution per eye, the works. Just a standard upgrade. But what's really interesting that year is the release of the Quest. The significance of the Oculus Quest lies in the fact that it is completely standalone. You don't need a computer to run it. You just put the headset on, it tracks itself, and it tracks your hands. So have fun until the battery runs out. This opened up the possibilities for what, where, and how VR could be experienced. To this day, you see people just simply taking them outside.
Bring it on, zombie! Oh! No. Die! Oh no, I missed it!
Hey, you never run out of space if you're playing in a giant open field. Feel free to run, jump, roll around, who cares, right? Whereas in your computer, you might have a bed to worry about, you might have a TV you might punch. I'd like you to find one person who's ever played a lot of standing VR that has never punched a surface. I don't think they exist. I definitely put some black marks on my wall playing Gorn in 2018 or so when I got my Vive. In 2019, Valve released what is widely regarded by many as the best all-in-one kit of VR you can still buy today. Featuring high-resolution, high-refresh rate screens in both eyes, a solid field of view, the best, hands-down best controllers you can buy for VR right now, and it's still outside tracking, which some are going to have error with and some are going to prefer. Specifically, we just got to talk about these controllers, man, they're incredible. So every other controller on the market looked something like this. You would have a tracking ring on the outside, some buttons to press, a joystick to use, a grip button here, and a trigger here. Where the index differentiates itself is across my knuckles here, there would be a strap attaching my hand to the controller so I wouldn't have to anchor it with my thumb like that to hold it up. Then on the stalk of the controller, the trigger, and above the buttons are finger tracking sensors, so you can go like this in VR. So if you want to point to something, you can point to something, and your character will do this right alongside you. Compared to something like a grip button, where you just have to be squeezing this thing, where naturally all you want to do is go like this to grab something. You don't need to hold and squeeze, because then your hand gets tired. You know, your hand's not really used to squeezing something for a long time like that. So being able to just grab things and throw them was huge, and still is huge. Then in 2020, we get the Quest 2, which a lot of people end up buying because they're stuck at home because there's a global pandemic going on, so VR becomes much more popular. It goes from being something that a dedicated hardcore gamer is into to being something that maybe your niece or your aunt will use. The entire Quest line is very good at being an introductory point to VR. It's a great starting off point. You don't need anything to get into it. You just walk in the store, walk out with a box for $300, $400 something dollars, and you play some VR. It's pretty cool. Then in 2022, we get the super expensive, not widely adopted Quest Pro. In 2023, we get the PSVR 2, which is what this controller is from. That same year, we also got the Quest 3 and Quest 3S. Then in 2024, Apple released the highest fidelity VR headset we've ever seen, the Apple Vision Pro. Unfortunately for Apple and for consumers, the Apple Vision Pro cost between $3,500 and $3,900 pre-tax, significantly outpricing itself from any of the competition, even the then thought to be expensive Valve Index, which is priced at $999.99. The Apple Vision Pro doesn't even come with controllers, but it's not really meant for like games and stuff. It's supposed to be for like super users, productivity people, I guess. I don't know, I don't think I'm ever gonna own one. But that's also just me. I don't have any Apple products. I just, because you buy one, then you have to buy like everything Apple, right? And I don't want that. I like my Windows computer. It's great. I know how to use it. One solution that's very expensive, so I didn't really feel like throwing it on this list. It's also not a full unit. You don't get controllers or tracking or any of that, but it's the Big Screen Beyond. It is a very, very cool, very tiny VR headset with great resolution, great refresh rate, great field of view. And by the time it's all said and done, it's not as much as an Apple Vision Pro, but you're still paying a lot, and a lot of people don't have them. But if you've got an extra $1,200 lying around, I mean, feel free, pull that trigger. I'm sure it's incredible. So that is the abridged history of VR. We had some stumbles and some weird little gaps where nothing happened at all, but specifically over the last 10 years, we have seen just innovation, 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 innovation. I mean, we're talking foveated rendering, so the display is tracking where your eyeballs are looking on the screen and saying, okay, we're gonna make this part of the screen where you're looking as sharp as possible, and then things out toward the outer reaches of your vision that you won't even notice are gonna be blurry, let's make those blurry. I'm talking inside out tracking, where the headset does all the tracking with cameras on it and all these fancy gadgets, so you can be waving your hands. Shoot, you don't even need a controller sometimes. You can just use your physical hands as the cameras track their movements. There are also a lot of really interesting Asian offerings that have gotten pretty much no popularization over here in the West, but I figured I'd shout those out anyway. So like the Pimax, the P1 Ultra, that sort of thing are really cool. I don't see them here ever, so not really worth getting too in depth on. So for the first time ever in the past decade, we have made enough advancements to create the type of world Jaron Lanier imagined in the 90s. But should we? It's actually pretty hard to find media that doesn't portray VR in a dystopian way. Typically in that sort of media, the person removes their VR and their place isn't exactly pristine. They're not exactly living in a healthy way. Take Ready Player One, for instance. The Oasis is the simulation that everyone around the globe uses daily for work, school, play, and everything else. One piece of software dominates everyone's life. And for some, it's a ticket out of poverty. For others, it's an escape from the real world, because in that world, the energy crisis happened a couple decades before the narrator was born, and they are running out of fossil fuels to burn. Gas prices and oil prices reached a point where no one can afford to travel by car or plane anymore. To access the Oasis, you needed good internet, so there was an influx of people moving into cities. In those cities where once stood RV parks are now what are called stacks. Stacks are RVs stacked on top of each other, some 30 cars high. In the world of Ready Player One, children even go to school inside the oasis. So from an incredibly early age, these people are indoctrinated to seeing a better life through these lenses. When they take the lenses off, they see the world around them and they go, well, this sucks, I better jump back in here. The human race being on its way to extinction in Ready Player One is an important driving force to why so many people are choosing escapism. What I find scary is that a lot of people are choosing that today. If we look at some comments from my last two videos, you can see a lot of people saying things like, you might as well just accept it's not gonna get any better. Things have been turning to shit for years. And that's just on my channel. If we apply that to greater society, we can see how that gives us some of the problems we have today. Americans are having to spend more on things like food and housing than they have in the past, and that is a problem, especially in our very individualistic society where everyone's end goal is to have their own place or, have a place with a family of their own, that sort of thing. In many other countries, adults sharing housing is the norm, and if trends continue, more and more people are going to have to do it. By the time Ready Player One takes place, they're stacking RVs on top of each other, and Wade lives in an RV, a double-wide RV with 15 people. He sleeps in a laundry room. Let's examine the economy of the Oasis. The slogan for the Oasis is, "It's the greatest video game ever created, and it only costs a quarter." In theory, it does sound incredible, but if you look into it just a little bit more, you'll find that actually the Oasis is a very expensive place to play. Wade, for instance, is chronically poor. If you couldn't tell by the fact that he lives with 15 people in a stack, yeah, he's dirt poor. And to get around the Oasis, you have to either own a vehicle that can travel through space or pay teleportation fees. The issue is, all Wade can do is go to the school planet. He doesn't even have the money to teleport off-world. Oasis credits at this point actually became the most stable currency in the world. So most people in America are using Oasis credits to also purchase things like food and clothing and pay for their apartment. So not only does that mean he's broken his video game, he is broke. He is living off nothing, and his aunt takes his food vouchers. So he scrounges what he can from the trash and fixes up old electronics and sells them to pawn shops just to eat. All that in the real world. This limitation of the writing is lifted once he finds the copper key because he gets a bunch of levels and credit and some gear, and from there the adventure just flies by. You can probably read pages 100 to the end in like an afternoon and not feel any regret about it. It's so good. It's so fun. If you've only ever seen the movie, for the love of God, read the books. The movie is not the book. It's a fine movie. I think it's kind of fun. I cannot believe it got an Oscar nomination. It wasn't that good. I think it's just because Steven Spielberg's name was on it. But it's fine. But the book, man, oh, the book is so good. It's about class struggle and, going against a corporatocracy as an individual, and it's just everything I love, dude. It's awesome. A corporatocracy is late stage capitalism gone wrong. Within a corporatocracy, a company or a collection of companies has gotten too much power to the point where they're influencing political decisions or making political decisions for the people. This type of government can come about when a country is in a huge amount of debt and a collection of companies says, hey, we'll bail you out, but we own you after. It can also come about when the influence of a company or the reliance of the public on that company becomes greater than their reliance on their government. In the case of Ready Player One, that would be Innovative Online Industries, IOI. For most of the country, outside of a few select points, they are the internet. So they are the Oasis for most people. Their goal throughout the book is to send their Sixers, a team of identical avatars with high-level gear, high-level weapons, and basically unlimited money, to find the keys before a egg hunter, does. Why James Halliday didn't put a clause in his will saying corporations may not compete, or employees of IOI, because IOI was already like a hated company by the time he was writing that will, so why didn't he just put it in there? But you know, whatever, you need an antagonist or whatever. If IOI wins the contest, they plan to add a monthly user fee, increase advertising, and limit creativity. It all sounds a little bit cartoon villainy, but then you look at a company like Meta, and what do you know, it's happening today. They're constantly buying up startups and turning them into shallow husks of what they once were, covered in ads, being charged more money, and locking features behind paywalls. As a very easy example, let's take Meta's acquisition of Instagram. Prior to the acquisition, Instagram had ads, yes, because you cannot run a free multi-million user platform on the internet and not have any ads, but they were less so and less frequent and just less stupid and insane. Like if you go on Instagram right now and you scroll, it's like every fourth thing in your feed, and then they'll also be showing you algorithmic things in your feed even though the Discover tab exists. Like, dude, just show me the people I follow in my feed, for the love of God, please. I don't need Instagram to be TikTok. I just want to see how people I went to high school with are doing, seeing if they're doing better than me. Most of them are. A lot of them are so hot. Or if we look to Elon's acquisition of Twitter, we can see him basically doing what IOI says they're going to do in the Oasis. He wants to charge a monthly user fee, blue check marks, increase the advertising budget to increase revenue for the company at the expense of the user experience, and the third one he actually is pretty decent about. He's not real big on censorship. You can show your butthole on X or be super racist like he does, but you know, whatever. 2 out of 3, that's enough for me. And like we talked about in the last video, Elon Musk did buy some votes in Wisconsin, so taking that one straight out of the Corporatocracy playbook. Nolan Sorrento in Ready Player One tries to buy Wade. He says he'll give him $5 million and a full-time job if he signs on as an oologist, an egg scientist, so a hunter for the egg under the employ of IOI. In the contract, it states that he must give the egg to IOI if he wins. Upon that, he will receive $20 million additional dollars, so $25 million bucks to a kid with nothing. And being a fictional character, he says no. But how many of you could? If you were in such a position where just having the skills you have as being a giant nerd about a certain topic could earn you $25 million, but the thing you love the most might become terrible after, will you take it? If we look at companies like Instagram, Oculus, and WhatsApp, yes, you will. And sure, those are for a much higher number of dollars, but the principle still stands. The issue with anyone having that amount of money, like Elon Musk, is people like us can't even fathom what is pennies to this man. Elon Musk could lose $100 million in his net worth tomorrow, and I don't think he'd really care. If I lose $5, I search my entire apartment. But class struggle will and always has been a topical point of discussion. And unfortunately, in dystopian novels, it often is. Many dystopian novels see our classes getting further and further and further disparaged. In 1985, Yoshiaki Tsutsumi had the greatest net worth in the world, valued around $20 billion. Today, Elon Musk is considered the richest man in the world, currently valued around $370 billion. Adjusted for inflation, that puts Yoshiaki Tsutsumi's net worth in today's money around $60 billion. A little under 1/6 of Elon Musk's current net worth. It isn't until place 25 on Forbes' 2024 list of the richest people in the world that we get Jeff Yass at $59 billion. So the disparity between the classes is greater now than it has ever been. If individual wealth at the highest percentile continues to grow at the rate it has between 1985 and 2025, a factor of 6.166 repeating, if we're only looking at the richest man in the world in 1985 and 2025, then by my napkin math, we will have multi-trillionaires in 2065. And yeah, sure, of course that math is not definitive and it's just looking at the net worth of one guy versus the net worth of another guy. But it gives us a good idea to see that we could have trillionaires in the next couple of decades. At under $500 million, Elon Musk already is going to space, so what the hell happens at $1 trillion? The things billionaires do on a Wednesday night is something that an average family may save up for 5 years to go and do. This creates a lack of perspective. So when these people with a lack of perspective are making choices for people that don't share the same experience as them, problems begin to arise. Man, sometimes someone needs to take the YouTube board of directors and C-suite and force them to use ad-supported YouTube for a week. I guarantee they will make changes to the types of ads or amount of ads shown on videos. Because holy shit, man. It seems like I'm washing my dishes, okay? I've got soapy hands, I've scrubbed one plate, and ad plays. Cool, I've got to dry my pinky, hit skip on my phone. Cool, I get another 3 minutes of content, and there's another ad, dude. But I would bet that those people all have YouTube Premium. So they have no idea what the ads are like. Head and Shoulders has one going on right now that is balls under boob and butt. Like, are you serious? Balls under boob and butt? It's been stuck in my head for days. But that'll never happen because they don't need to. They have enough money to have the privilege not to see that type of experience. So to them, that experience doesn't really exist. And that goes for basically any bad experience in the entire world. If you have enough money, you can choose not to have bad experiences. But as the wage gap between the richest class and the poorest class becomes bigger and bigger and bigger, those experiences are going to change. There are going to be experiences that only, 2% of the population can afford, like there are now where people can spend $30, $50, $100,000 to go spend a weekend somewhere, where most people, if they have that kind of money, they could put a down payment on a house or send their kid to college or whatever they want to do. But for the average person with a couple $1 billion, what's $100,000? It's basically nothing. It's basically like a $20 bill to you or me. If today's billionaires are tomorrow's trillionaires, we're not just talking about inequality or keeping up with the Joneses or, these petty little wealth squabbles that we have today. We're talking about an entirely different race of wealth. A class of people that lives an entirely different experience than you or I do here on Earth. That amount of money is higher than the GDP of some countries. Yet all of it is attributed to one person. That is terrifying. But the only way to get that much money is to have both power and influence. And if you have power and influence, then what are you doing? You're shaping the reality of those who follow you. Those that give you that power and influence, which are of a lower class than you are. So you're designing these experiences, these products, these platforms, whatever you're designing and getting money from, for people that live an entirely different experience than you. So what you may think is fun, entertaining, interesting, etc., may completely clash with that of a different class, especially if you've never lived their experiences. Speaking of class disparity and escapism, I went ahead and watched the movie Existenz. I really want to say that you can't watch this one on streaming platforms, but you guys were very mad at me about 28 days later. I swear some things changed with the license. I could not find it at the time I recorded that video. But this one, This one I definitely had to surf the high seas to go find. But it's really good. It's a David Cronenberg movie. If you guys have ever seen like The Fly or any other Cronenberg stuff, it's very classic Cronenberg body horror. A lot of people haven't seen this one, so I'm gonna break down the plot real quick just so you have any idea what I'm talking about. The movie opens with Allegra, played by Jennifer Jason Leigh, showing off her new video game, Existenz. Nobody balks at the weird fleshy computers or the weird umbilical cord looking jacks, and everyone seems to already have a bioport installed, a second butthole right above your spine that apparently sends you into the virtual world. Very David Cronenberg. Similar to Sword Art Online, it is a full dive style VR. So as soon as you jack in, it takes over your nervous system and your sensory organs and transports them to a different place while your body goes into some sort of coma-like state. I will be spoiling the plot of Existenz from here on, so go away or skip if you haven't seen it. I swear it's worth watching. It's not super long and it holds up. It's great. As Allegra gets some volunteers to the front, they begin to download the game onto everyone's systems and jack in. While this is happening, a man from the crowd stands up and displays a gun that looks like it's made from decaying human flesh. He shouts "Death to Allegra" and shoots her in the shoulder. Ted, played by Jude Law, gets her, takes her to her car, and they go to a hotel together. Along the way, they pull over and pull out a tooth from her arm. Then they disassemble the human gun that Ted picked up on his way out, and they realize that it is a gun that shoots teeth, made to bypass metal and foreign part scanners. They drop their things off at the hotel and head to a gas station to get Ted a bioport. At the gas station is a mechanic named Gas, played by Willem Dafoe, and oh my god, I love him in this movie. It's like giving Green Goblin mixed with the character he was in Spy Kids, because he does have a god monologue in this one. It's not quite as good as the Spy Kids one, that one's pure cinema. Then they go about getting Ted a bioport installed. Ted's a little bit apprehensive about it, he babies out, he tries to threaten Willem Dafoe with a wrench, but eventually he does cave in and gets a bioport. They jack into Existenz for the first time, they think, right then. Unfortunately for Allegra, something malfunctions, she blames it on Ted neural surging, and the pod gets a zap back from Ted. This causes her flesh computer to be very sick and decayed looking. While they argue, Gas walks in with a shotgun and lets Allegra know that she has a $5 million bounty on her, dead or alive, and he intends to take her dead. One can assume from context later in the movie that the reason for her bounty is that VR has ruined people's lives. Similarly to Ready Player One, the world we see as the real world in this movie so far looks cold, bleak, and dead. So transporting people into a world that isn't that, and then making them realize every single time they go out of it that the real world that their physical body lives in is dead, makes them feel pretty terrible. Makes them even want to kill. Gas also explains that he put a faulty bioport in Ted, causing the surge. To protect Allegra, Ted picks up the bioport gun and shoots Willem Dafoe in the neck, killing him. Ted, being a junior marketing advisor, has never killed anyone before, so this does take a toll on his psyche. They flee the gas station and go to an abandoned ski lodge that has been turned into a biocomputer surgery center. What follows is one of the coolest bits of practical effects I've seen in a long time. Like, dude, just him dissecting this flesh computer, it's so cool, it's so fun, I love it. It's here that we get a little bit more information on how these computers work. When you jack it into your bioport, you're giving it access to your body's nutrients. It uses you as power. Because I really don't think you can talk dystopian future without talking about biohacking, which this is a VR example of. Hell, we even have real modern biohacking made by, who? Elon Musk. Richest man in the world makes biohacking technology. We're following some pretty scary dystopian future steps here. Ted's bioport gets fixed and they go on back to the hotel room with a working flesh computer and working bioport. So they are finally about to play Existenz for the first time. I'm skipping straight to the end of the movie because I don't want this summary to get on too long, but if you were at all interested in that, you'll still find the movie super enjoyable to watch. And I left you about an hour of movie that you don't know the plot points of yet, so go ahead and go watch it. It's super fun. It's available on the Internet Archive. So last chance, if you're going to watch it, I'm about to spoil it completely, more than I've spoiled it already. Okay, I'm gonna give you 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ted and Allegra have been in Existenz this whole time. It isn't until the very end of the movie that we find ourselves in the very same conference room that we do at the beginning of the movie, in which Ted and Allegra both unjack from their bioports, stand up, and shoot the designer of the game, who is not Allegra. It is a different guy entirely. And the question is left for the viewer. Were they driven mad by the in-game world and being told so many times subliminal messaging, kill the game designer, kill the game designer? Or were they part of the resistance all along, and the people trying to kill them in the game were actually people trying to protect the game designer in real life? It's a lot to chew on, but it all goes back to class struggle. Once you learn that information, going back and watching the movie a second time is even more enjoyable. You're seeing these little things, these little inconsistencies where it's like, oh, yeah, it's such a good watch. You can watch it 2-3 times and still get a lot out of it every time. It all goes back to who will be designing our future and how will people feel about these people. Will they look upon them with rage and hate, as we do when our phone starts playing its 4th advertisement in 10 minutes, or great benefactors and leaders that we look up to? Will they be able to understand what drives, motivates, and entertains people who have completely different brains than them? Ready Player One takes a look at a person who is able to win from a digital society. Existenz takes a look at people who lose to the digital society. And both beg the question, how real is too real? Ready Player One, Wade is able to lose himself for up to 48 hours inside the Oasis without sleeping, eating, or taking off his goggles. In Existenz, neither the characters nor the watcher of the movie even know that you've been inside the simulation from minute 1 of the movie. If Ready Player One took a different approach where instead of doing space travel to get from planet to planet, you just went and did a simulated life experience in between and then basically lost yourself inside the Oasis between living your fake life and going to do, quests and missions and things, it becomes a lot bleaker. When people start to lose touch entirely with their reality, they start getting things like delusions of grandeur. They start having manipulated perceptions of themselves, and of course of their reality or soon-to-be realities around them. Before Wade becomes the winner of his society, we get to see what it's like for the people at the very bottom. In the book, Wade is currently in his Columbus apartment alone when the Orb of Osavox is used. Knowing that it can only be shut down from the inside, he cooks up a plan to get taken in as an indentured servant by IOI. He brings some codes with him to help him hack the system and help him get his way out of there and shut the orb down and all this stuff. But the main thing that we see is what life is like for an indentured servant. They live in these pods on the walls where they have just like a tablet on the wall for their entertainment where they get one corporate show to watch, and they have to work 12 hours a day in whatever industry they're most likely fit for. They're equipped with ankle monitors that track their location, can administer electric shock, and can administer poison directly into the bloodstream. They're also equipped with a technology called ear gear that hooks up right about here, bites the ear, and then acts as a front-facing camera and audio recording device. The book makes it very explicit that if you ever end up in the indentured servant center, you will never get out. The cost of rent for your crappy little bed pod and your food is more than you can make as an indentured servant. Klein's example of indentured servitude heavily mirrors sharecropping in the early 1900s in the US. Unfortunately, it also mirrors a lot of overseas manufacturing centers for things like technological goods, textiles, and pretty much anything else you buy that's made with unfair labor practices, which is a lot of what you buy if you don't buy the highest end of everything. And sure, they don't have ear gear and ankle monitor poison devices yet, but we're really not that far off from it, and if it will keep workers in line or moving faster, expect companies to use it. So to all the people celebrating AI taking jobs like acting, voice acting, and artistry, what do you think is gonna be left? Factory jobs are definitely gonna be out the window. Fast food jobs will most likely be out the window. The medical industry will most likely go to the way of robots eventually, as they won't steal medication, commit malpractice, or racially profile anyone, I hope. Simple math, data, and accounting jobs also out the window. And what we're left with is the highest of the high, who control the robots, and the lowest of the low, who must compete with them. Hello, fellow scum of the earth, we're gonna be tearing it up with some T2000s. When we reach that point in late-stage capitalism, we will either need to have a utopian-style government that provides for their citizens wholly out of a right, not a privilege, or we'll need to have rock-steady human workers' unions to protect the rights of human workers from anywhere from hours to pay, to healthcare, to benefits, and everything else. If neither of those are true, we are going to be fucked. If only the second is true, we could be looking at a society like Aldous Huxley's Brave New World. A society where everyone is bred for their specific job. The economy will not bend for humanity, so humanity will have to bend for the economy, modifying their bodies to be as useful as robots. Everyone is equally happy because they're fulfilled by their job. If they're feeling unfulfilled, they take a gram. Keeping your populace high, stupid, and content is a very good way to control people, straight out of several playbooks. I'm reading Brave New World for a class I'm in college right now, and my brain cannot stop making ties to WALL-E for some reason. I know it sounds super silly, but hear me out. You take away the eugenics of Brave New World, and the jobs, and the only thing you have left for Brave New World is recreation and consumption. In Brave New World, they're conditioned to want to work, to want to consume, and want to go do recreational activities, which all cost money. In WALL-E, it kind of falls apart if you try to examine the economy, because how are these people earning any money? It seems like they just float and consume and consume and consume. And where do they get their resources from? Shouldn't they have scarcity? They've been up in the air for like 100 years, right? I'm pretty sure. I can't remember. I think it's like 100 years. But the people are actually in a very similar trance of consumption, recreation, consumption, which does frame the world of WALL-E in a rather bleak way. I understand that it seems like the end of the movie WALL-E is actually a good thing, but if we pay attention to the facts presented throughout the movie, particularly they have less bones in their body, are not used to the weight of Earth's gravity, and are not used to Earth's air. With all these factors, I'm pretty sure they realistically get down on planet Earth and then take about 3 steps, and then they're like, and you know, they're way too tired and they die. But if we back it up and act like they stayed in space the whole time, I think that is a loss to technology. While not explicitly VR, everyone has their own personalized display and they're tuned into their own version of reality. They also have some Dragon Ball Z looking eye gear that manipulates their perception of the world around them, and what it's mainly used to do is display advertisements. So consistently across many pieces of media, the answer is advertising. Advertising, advertising, advertising. Fill up everyone's vision with ads. Make them want something all the time. The bleakest thing about the humans in WALL-E isn't their intelligence or their weight, but their lack of passion or interest in anything. Yes, they all have personalization options. You see one person get a new color shirt and another person goes, oh, I like that, I'll get that. And then, all of a sudden everybody's wearing the same shirt. And it's just consumerism at its deepest level without any regard for the thought behind it. It was a deliberate choice not to show any of the people in WALL-E learning, reading, watching films, anything like that where they're consuming art, but it's all just doing recreational activities and having personal preferences on things, or, having little treats, little bits of food, little drinks, whatever. There are so many personal robots in the movie that everyone just throws their garbage and it gets picked up by the trash robots, and then the cleaning robots come and go get it. And then the food robot comes and drops off food or drops off drink. And all of a sudden, it's an extremely pampered, soft society. And maybe that's the scariest outcome of them all. A society where you no longer have to use your body for anything. A society where you no longer have to use your mind for anything. People are often defined by their struggles, and a society without struggles is a society without goals. Without goals or interests or willpower, there will be nothing left of the human race. Purely just something to watch content, devoid of any critical thinking or drive. Unfortunately, we may be barreling down that direction right now with the use of AI. Giving up your ability to think is the worst thing to lose, because after that, everything else can crumble. Humans are meant to constantly be learning, engaging, and enjoying things. We can see evidence of this when the captain of the ship in WALL-E ends up learning about America. He spends the whole night asking it questions like, oh, what's that? What's this? What would they use this for? And it's just human curiosity in one scene, and it's very well done. But if everything is instantly available, curiosity dies. And currently, when people are trusting these AI with their lives and not proofreading them, not fact-checking them, that means they may then go about their life holding fake knowledge as real knowledge because, well, the robot told me. The robot told me. But if your freedom to think dies, what more are you than a husk full of fuel? Hence, the ultimate VR future of The Matrix, where the human race are just happy cattle living in their happy little simulation. Everybody's simulation is unique to them, and everybody gets to enjoy themselves. As long as you don't try to break out of the system, you're in great shape. Enjoy your life. If the escape is better than reality, then why choose reality? Why ever jack out of the Matrix? The answer for many is they wouldn't. The answer for me, I probably wouldn't. Can you imagine loving your life? You think you live this really cool life, and then one day, you get some weird dude offering you a pill, and you take a pill, and then you're just this naked guy with tubes coming out of him. I don't know that I'd have the mental fortitude to power through that. I think maybe I'd want to go back to the place I like, because if I'd never had any inclination prior that was a fake reality, I think I would rather just convince myself that it is real. When life gets hard enough, people will choose dire circumstances to continue to survive. And when the choice falls between dire circumstances and a rich, believable alternate reality, most are going to pick the rich, believable alternate reality, just like Cypher does in The Matrix. Despite having the knowledge that he really will just become another husk in The Matrix, he's able to convince himself that the steak he's eating is real. That is the true terror of The Matrix and other full dive VR options. In a dead or dying world, is the real world more real than your illusion? And if it is, do you want it to be? And in the context of Ready Player One, if you have an awesome life in the game, how often are you going to get out and take care of your physical body? How likely are you to procreate and advance the human race? In a VR-ruled society, when do you put your child into VR? We see similar things happening now with social media and AI with parents and children. When do you give your kid their first iPad? When do you let them get their first social media account? How do you monitor those accounts? As soon as a parent puts their child on the internet, their child has now become another product of the algorithm. Their algorithm will begin to learn what they like and start feeding them what it wants to show them. If your child has their own Google or Facebook account, then Google or Meta has a profile on your child for what kind of content they like, what kind of ads they're responsive to, etc., etc. And they're going to have these profiles on people that are 4 to 8 years old. This level of algorithmic development will surely let advertisers have a better idea of exactly what age which kids like which ads. This will only help algorithms get better and scarier. And as our consumerist, throw it away, don't fix anything society barrels ahead, resources are going to become more scarce, as we see in Ready Player One, in WALL-E, and I don't think their predictions are incredibly far off, especially with the recent news that NASA got its budget dropped 25% by the Trump administration. I wonder if that money's going to SpaceX. It's alright. Elon is halfway to being a WALL-E character. If you look at that barrel chest, dude. So let's get him up in zero grav, get those bones growing out. He'll hang out up there. This is my second request for Elon Musk to go to space and leave us alone. In The Matrix, the machines are the clear-cut antagonist of the movie because they are explicitly shown to be controlling the simulation that everyone is involved in. In WALL-E, I would argue that the antagonist is by and large, which we are never shown to be controlled by a human. So what we can assume is that it operates off artificial intelligence just like all the robots. The AI, by and large, was most likely given the directive to entertain and advertise to sell products to everyone aboard the ship. It exists to keep them distracted, just like the Matrix does for the machines in the Matrix, keeping their population high, stupid, and content. The only piece of media we've spoken about today that is a true win in my book is Ready Player One. And the primary difference between its simulation and the simulation of everything else we've talked about is knowledge. Knowledge, baby! Look at my Lamborghini, I got bookshelves in my garage for knowledge. If you're under like 14, I guess you won't get that joke, but I swear it's really funny. Despite being a distinctively dystopian novel, Ready Player One's Oasis has utopian qualities, specifically in the Oasis Public Library. The Oasis Public Library houses a collection of every video game, TV show, article, book, album, single, whatever. If it's been on the internet before, it's on the Oasis. So everything from the 1980s up to I think it's 2045 in the book, is archived for free through the Oasis Public Library. It's through this knowledge and his own passion and creativity that Wade can win the Gunter contest. I'm gonna slash at the feet of the movie one more time. The final gate is the dumbest thing in the world, because in the book, Anorak's invitation to join the contest talks about getting the Easter egg in Adventure. Even before seeing Ready Player One, I had known that knowledge just as a video game player. I've never played Adventure and I don't know how to get to the rooms, but I knew about it. So for somebody who's supposedly trying to find the world's greatest Easter egg, to not even know about the first one is got to be the dumbest thing in the whole world. Come on, Spielberg. Where were we going with that? Ran out of money doing the Iron Giant? What happened? But throughout the novel, Klein peppers in all these obscure little pop culture 80s facts and bits of knowledge that are super fun to read for one, but also show how much Klein values knowledge. Problems begin to arise when that knowledge is tainted. Censorship is nothing new, but One of my favorite very recent examples is the 2010 Robin Hood movie on Amazon Prime. The opening screen for the 2010 Robin Hood movie used to read, "In times of tyranny and injustice, when law oppresses the people, the outlaw takes his place in history." Now, it's merely a blank piece of parchment. Now, why would one of the richest men in the world want to stop ideas of rebelling against tyranny? Where in the world are we seeing signs of tyranny? I don't have any idea, guys. Not America. Trump dogs got us. Trump dogs got us. I heard he gets holes in one on every golf hole. I heard he's actually better. He's a better golf player than Kim Jong-un, and he has a better vert. So, yeah, my boy Donnie got hops. If we allow further censorship of language like this, we can never have something like the Oasis Public Library. We'll be more akin to the Library of Alexandria after the fire. Only it isn't a fire, it's a malicious agenda to make you conform to how they want you to act. Much, much more similar to the burnings of books by Nazis in the 40s. And the scariest part, we're choosing it. By majority vote, at least. As people consume these digital files that can always be revised or re-edited, we have the potential for mass Mandela effects to take place. At that point, we may begin to question our real reality. Did we really remember that? Or is it made up by our own brain? If you think you're correct, are you going to fight like Neo or take the stake like Cyphers? Fuck! If you think you're correct, will you fight like Neo or take the stake like Cypher? Would you subject yourself to the humdrum, ad-filled existence seen in WALL-E? Because in a dead or dying world, is reality more legit than illusion? And if it is, do you want it to be? WALL-E has by and large, The Matrix has the machines, Ready Player One has IOI. We have it all. We just call them platforms. Whether it's TikTok, Meta, or your favorite news source, you are being coerced into how to think. If you don't stop and weigh your personal experience against what you're being told, you may be being told what to think. So I encourage you, if you don't understand something that is being brought up in political conversation, economic conversation, or futurist conversation, do some research into it, ask a friend, ask ChatGPT, ask Perplexity. Perplexity is great because it at least gives you its sources, but ask somebody if you don't understand something. Because just going, oh, I'm probably not smart enough to understand that, that's a horrible mindset. Try to learn something all the time. It's only by adapting that humans have gotten this far. So keep adapting. Don't get too comfortable. I say that as a soft-bodied gamer, but at least challenge your intellect every now and then. If something seems wrong to you, look into it from both sides. It might be wrong, but the sort of realities seen in Ready Player One and WALL-E don't happen overnight. They happen because people stop caring and they stop paying attention. Dystopia is preventable, but it's got a killer ad campaign. Thank you for watching, guys, and I am so sorry this video took so long to make. I'm getting straight into the edit. Hopefully I can get this to you pre-May 15th. That's my theoretical deadline for myself, so if you see this video before May 15th, celebrate with me. I'm so sorry it took so long. I had to read a couple books, had to watch a bunch of movies, and this one took some time to really plot out and make feel good. So I hope it felt good for you, because it felt really good for me, and yeah, thanks for coming, guys. If you use VR right now in today's world, tell me about it. Tell me what you use. I use a PSVR 2, and I really like it, honestly. I play a lot of Gran Turismo 7. It's a blast. The foveated rendering does really weird things for my eyes, even with prescription lenses on the headset, so I don't play a ton of standing VR. I'm about halfway through Resident Evil 4, but man, does it ever just get me motion sick after about 30-40 minutes, so I don't know. But hey, if you made it this far, thanks for sticking around. I'd love to see your support in the comments. I'd love a like and a subscribe, but absolutely don't feel pressured to. I'm just glad you stopped by. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you all next month. Peace.